So in today's session, we'll see how we can do data-driven testing using Excel file. But before discussing data-driven testing, we have to know how we can work with Excel sheet, like how we can read data from Excel sheet. And if you want to write a new data in the Excel sheet, how we can write data into Excel sheet. So these are the things we have to know first, and then we'll see data-driven testing. So data-driven testing is basically we will specify or we will prepare test data in Excel files, and we read the data from Excel and we use it in our automation testing. And we will pass the same data to the application and we will do testing. So that is basically called as data driven testing. The testing is driven by the data. So before that, we need to know how to work with the Excel files, Microsoft Excel files. So by default, Selenium doesn't support any Excel files. Okay, Selenium is only meant for web automation. Means what? It will interact with the different type of web elements on the web page, and it will perform certain actions. And we can locate an element, we can perform actions. So that's the only part WebDriver will take care. But other than this, Selenium doesn't support anything else. So to support the things, so what we can do is we can integrate some third-party APIs or some third-party libraries we have to integrate with the Selenium, and then we will able to achieve it. So Excel file or Excel, Microsoft Excel doesn't support by Selenium WebDriver by default. So we need to use a third-party library, which is called Apache POI library. So that name of the library is Apache POI library, or we can say Apache POI library. So this is also a third-party library, or we can say API, and which we need to integrate with existing project. So whatever project we are currently working with, this is a purely Selenium WebDriver project, right? And underlying is Java. So the underlying technology is Java only. So this is basically Java project, which also having Maven integration, right? So because in the pom.xml, we already added Selenium drivers. So now on top of it, we will also add Apache library. So then we will able to access different type of classes, some additional classes and methods from Apache POI library. And by using those classes and methods, we can work with the Excel files. Okay. So first, let us try to see how we can configure this library into our current project. It's very simple. Just like how we have configured Selenium by just adding one dependency. Similarly, we should also add another dependency for Apache POI. So now let me show you how we can add another dependency for Apache POI. So from where we will get all the dependencies? What is a website? MVN, because we are working with the Maven project. So if you go back to the Maven MVN repository, and from the MVN repository, we can get all the third-party libraries. Just type with MVN repository. And this is a website, actual Maven global repository. So from it, we can download everything. Now we need to search for Apache POI. And you can find everything. And if you want to know the documentation and everything from Apache POI, you can search for in the Google, you can search for Apache POI, and it will first go to their official website. So if I look at here, this is Apache POI, the Java API for Microsoft Documents. Java API for Microsoft Documents. It is not only for Excel. It will also support Word, PowerPoint, other tools which are there in Microsoft Office suite. And this is the main website and all the download information. Okay, documentation, more examples we can find in this particular website. This is the official website of Apache POI. So this is also free open source API, which is developed from Apache Foundation. So Apache is provided so many third-party APIs, not only this. So this is the documentation page. And if you go to download section, and suppose if you create a normal Java project, if you don't have a Maven, then we can also download specific jar file and we can attach. So if you want to download the jar file, you can just click on this link. It will give the jar file that we need to add. But we are not following that approach. We are following Maven project. So we have to just add one dependency. So to add dependency, we need to just go with MVN repository, search for Apache POI, and you can find so many things here. So which one we need to add? So in Apache POI library, so these are the options you can see. In this, there are two libraries which we have to add actually. Two libraries which are related to this Apache POI, which we need to add. So the first library is just Apache POI, Apache POI common. This is the first one. And 525. So this is the first one we need to add. In the dependency section. Previously, we added Selenium Java dependency. Now I'm adding another dependency inside the dependency. So this is one. This is a link. If you want to directly get this, you can open this link and you can get it. You can directly go to this link and go to the latest version 525, copy this and add it. Okay, this is the one dependency which we need to add, Apache POI. And there is another dependency also we need to add related to POI. That is Apache POI Vovo XML. You can see something called Vovo XML, the second one. This is the one. Apache POI API based on OPC and OXML schemas. Okay, so just get this second one. Again, same version 525. Just copy this. So these are the two dependencies which we need to add in Apache POI. So these are the two dependencies are required. So what will happen when you add dependencies? It will automatically download required jar files. Okay. Now, if I look at it under reference libraries, sorry. Yeah, we already had this reference libraries. So once you added these two, now let me save it and then refresh your project. As soon as you refresh under Maven dependencies, apart from the Selenium jar files, you will also see Apache POI related jar files. So it is start downloaded. You can see here POI 525, POI OXML. So these are the jar files which are automatically downloaded by Maven project just by adding dependencies in the pom.xml. Okay, now that's it. This is simple configuration we have to do. So the first step, we need to add these two additional dependencies in pom.xml. I'll put this dependency here. Just you need to add them in existing pom.xml. Dependencies in pom.xml. Okay, that's it. So once you added these two dependencies, we will get some additional classes, some additional methods. Through them, we can deal with the Excel files. Okay. So now our project is ready. Now let me close this and make sure all the dependencies, this is one dependency, this is another dependency, and this is another dependency. So these are all dependencies are part of dependencies tag. So at the time of adding, you need to just make sure all the dependencies should be part of dependency. Okay, now let me close this. So you can just get this URL and browse it in MVN repository. You will get this dependency. If you are not able to navigate or if you're confusing which one you have to select because there are so many Apache POIs are there. So directly go to this link. So directly go to this link. It will show you all the versions, Apache POI common, and another one is this one. Directly go here and open this URL. You can see the same version again, 525. Okay, so you can get it. Okay, so if you need, I can just put in the chat box. All right. So now we have added the dependencies in form.xml. Now our project is ready to deal with the Excel files. Okay. Now by adding this Apache POI jar files, we are ready to handle Excel files. Okay. So now before handling Excel files, so we need to understand something about Excel file, Excel sheet, and the structure of Excel file, how we can organize the data and everything. So what we need to do is whenever you want to work with Excel file, so mainly reading Excel and writing data into Excel. These are the only two operations we do. And before doing these operations, first we need to understand what is an Excel, what it contains. So let me open a small Excel file, a small doc. This is my Microsoft Excel file. Okay. So an Excel file, Excel is basically what? A file. Excel is a file. And this is my Excel file. If you want to save it, you can save it. Excel is basically a file. Excel file. And also we can say this is Excel file. Excel file contains what? Excel workbook. So currently this is a one Excel file contains one workbook. Okay, so if you want to create another workbook, you need to go to the file and you need to just go to the new and you can take the blank workbook. So most of the times file and workbook both are considered as the same. There is no much difference. So file or Excel workbook. So whenever you want to create a new workbook, you can take this blank workbook and you can give another name to that particular workbook. So normally for Excel workbook, we will provide a name. So Excel file and which contains a workbook. So the Excel workbook, we will provide some name. That's called Excel file name. So what is workbook contains? Workbook contains a Excel sheets, worksheets. We can call sheets. Okay, so workbook contains a worksheets. And what the Excel sheet contains? Every Excel sheet contains number of rows, multiple rows. And what is a row contains? Every row contains the multiple cells. So this is the hierarchy of Excel file. So first we will have Excel file. Excel file contains a workbook. Workbook contains a multiple sheets. Again, every sheet contains a multiple rows. Every row or each row contains a multiple cells. So this is the hierarchy of the Excel file. This is the hierarchy of the Excel file. Now in this hierarchy, where exactly we want to, from where we want to read the data from all these things? From the cell. So cell is an actual container which holds the data, right? Whenever you want to read the data, that should happen from the cell. Whenever you want to write the data, that also should happen inside the cell. So from the cell, we will read the data and also we will write the data into the cell. So cell is a final object, but we cannot directly interact with the cells at the time of reading and writing. So first we need to open the file. We need to go to the workbook. Then we need to go to corresponding worksheet because there are a number of sheets will be there. So we need to go to exact sheet and also we need to go to exact row. On that particular row, we will find exact cell. In that cell, we can write the data or we can read the data. So we need to follow the entire hierarchy to reach this particular cell. Okay. And we cannot directly interact with the cell. So if you want to read or write data into the cell, we need to open the file. We need to open the workbook. We need to get the sheet. We need to get the particular row. Then we can interact with the cells. So this is a process. Now, if you consider every component in Excel is an object, let's say Excel file, workbook, sheet, row, cell. These are the main components are there in Excel sheet, Excel file. Now, to representing every component, there is a dedicated classes are available. What are those classes? Provided by Selenium, provided by Apache POI. So if you look at the Excel file, first component is what? Excel file. So suppose if you want to read the data from Excel file or write data into the Excel file, we need to open the Excel file first. So we can open the Excel file either in the reading mode or writing mode. So if you open the Excel file in the reading mode, we can read the data from Excel. And if you open the Excel file in writing mode, then we can write data into the Excel file. So to open this Excel file in the reading mode or writing mode, there are two classes are available, which they are file input stream and a file output stream. So basically these two classes are from Java itself. Okay, from Java itself. So these two classes are not from Apache POI. Why? Because these classes we can use it not only for Excel files, whichever file you have. So Notepad, properties file, Excel files, PDF file, any type of file. If you want to open, we can use file input stream. And any type of file, if you want to open in the writing mode, we will use file output stream. So these two classes are same for all kinds of documents, all kinds of files. So that is the reason Java is already provided file input stream and file output stream. By using these two classes, we can open the Excel file either in the reading mode or in the writing. And apart from these two, there are another classes are provided by Apache POI, which will deal with workbook, sheet, row, and cells. Now, there are four additional classes are provided by Apache POI, right? XSSF workbook, XSSF sheet, XSSF row, XSSF cell. So what are those three classes? The four classes. These four classes are representing the four components of Excel file. So file is already represented as using file input stream or file output stream. Depends upon whether you want to read the data or whether you want to write the data. Based upon that, you can use one of the class. And once you open the Excel file, then we have to deal with the workbook. For that, we have a special class called XSS workbook. And to deal with the sheet, we have a XSF sheet. And to deal with the rows, we have XSSF row. And to deal with the cell, we have another class called XSSF cell. For the remaining four components of Excel, we have four different kinds of classes provided by Apache POI. So this Apache POI library is provided these four classes, which are especially deal with workbook, sheet, row, and cell. Okay. So now by using these classes, we can handle rest of the components. Now we'll see the first operation, how to read data from Excel. Reading data from Excel. Suppose I already have some data in my Excel file or Excel sheet. Now I want to read the data from Excel sheet and then I'll print in my console window. But in actual scenario is what? Once you read data from Excel sheet, we will use the data for testing purpose. We will pass the data to the application, then we will do the testing. That is the secondary part. But before that, we will try to understand how to read data from the Excel file. Okay. So these are the different components in Excel. And if you go back, this is an Excel file or workbook, which contains a sheet one. You can add a number of sheets and every sheet contains a multiple rows. Every row contains a multiple cells. So this is the hierarchy of the Excel. Okay. Now let's see how we can handle this Excel, how to read data from the Excel by using these four different classes. This is a step-by-step process, very easy. Just we need to remember a few classes and methods. We can do it. So what is a prerequisite before reading the data from Excel file? We should have an Excel file already, which contains some data. Now I have already some Excel file I prepared. Let me show you. So you can keep that Excel file somewhere in your system, like say an automation files. Now here I have some file called data.xls. So this is my sheet one, sheet two, multiple sheets are there, but in the sheet one, I have some data. So let's say book name, purchase date, amount, and then location. So I want to read this data and I will print in that data in my console window in our Eclipse. Okay. So normally what happens is when you maintain the test data files in our project, we don't keep these files outside of the project. So normally we don't keep them in C drive or D drive, some external places. Most of the times, whenever you maintain the test data, normally what we will do is in the same project, we will create a new folder like this. And I'll name it as a test data folder. And inside the test data, we will keep the Excel files. So now what I will do is whatever Excel I have shown you just now, I'll copy this Excel file and copy Control C and go back to the test data, select the test data folder and simply Control V. So it is copied. So here you can see data.xls file. Okay. So like this, okay, no open. If I double click on this and you won't see anything in the Eclipse. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to associate this particular file with the .xlsx extension. So when you double click on this, it will ask you first time. So associate this XLS file with the current editor and do not ask again. So you can just select this or else show ID extensions for this file type and let me install them. It is asking for this because if you already installed some Excel related plugins, it will directly open the Excel file. If I double click on this, it will directly open. Okay. So otherwise it will just show a small icon like this. You can see we can open with, it will not show anything. So now what we need to do is we need to associate this file with some extension. So I'm selecting the first one, show ID extensions for the file type and let me install them because currently XLS extensions are not there. That's the reason it is not able to recognize. Now I'm just clicking in OK button. So once you click on OK button, so it will open Eclipse Marketplace. So here you can search for Excel, something like this. It will show you what are all related plugins are available to identify that particular extension. Or if you are not able to see anything here, another way is simple double click and select the second one because Excel file we already installed, Excel already there in our system. Select the second one, save OK. So currently it is empty. Now it's not showing anything here. But if you are installed Excel as plugin, so then the icon will be different. Okay, let me try to install that plugin. So first open this. Okay, so let me go to the help. Let me find out proper one. So I can just go to Eclipse Marketplace. So this is the optional step. So this is not mandated, but if you want to see exact Excel file format, you need to do it. So I'm just typing something called .xlsx. So .xlsx extension. So it could not find. You can just type Excel plugin. Okay, so we'll see this Excel plugin later. I think we could not find here. So, but if you install that Excel plugin, so this icon will be just like an Excel icon. So how we are able to see this icon here, same icon will be displayed, just visibility purpose. Otherwise, there is no use of it. Okay. So now I copied this Excel file into this test data folder. So once you have this file in the test data folder, so this is the data which we have currently in Excel file. So now we want to read this data and put this in the console window. That's our job. So now what you need to do is go to your Eclipse. Now go to your project, create new package for today, day 40. And inside this, I'm creating a new class. Name it as reading data from Excel. Okay, so here we are not dealing with any type of applications for now. We just focus only on the Excel part. So once you understood about Excel sheet and Excel part, then we will try to deal with the application. Then I will show you the entire data-driven test case. So that is a concept tomorrow we'll discuss. But today we'll just focus on our operations on Excel file. Okay. Now we'll do step by step. So how to read data from Excel file. So before doing that, you need to remember this hierarchy. This is most important. So with the same hierarchy or with the same process, we do it. First Excel file, then workbook, which contains a sheet. Sheet contains a rows. Rows contains a cell. So same hierarchy we have to follow. Okay. The first step is what is our goal here is we want to read data from Excel file. That's our main objective. So before reading the data from Excel sheet, we have to open the Excel file. So in which mode we have to open, reading mode or writing mode? Because we are reading the data from Excel, so we have to open the Excel file in the reading mode. So to open the Excel file in the reading mode, what is the class we have to use? File input stream class we have to use. File input stream class. Now let us use it here. I can say file input stream that is representing a Excel file. So I'm creating one variable called file equal to new file input stream. So I have created one file input stream class object and import this file input stream from java.io. This is not come from Apache POI. This is comes from Java itself. So java.io is a package which we have to import. So when you create a file input stream object, this will expect the file from where we want to read. So we already have that file in the test data folder. So we need to provide the location of this XLS file. So I'm just go to properties of this file so that I can get the location of this file. So this is the location that we have to pass it here. This is the location of the file, which includes the name of the file also. Okay, now this particular statement will throw some exception, file not found exception. Just add that. So this is my first step. Excel file we open in the reading mode. And suppose if you look at here, this is hard-coded path. The full path we have given. It went to automation, my workspaces, Selenium WebDriver, another Selenium WebDriver, test data, and so on. So if you want to capture this path dynamically, so this current project path is still here. So actual location is this one, right? Inside the test data, data.xls file is present. So if you want to capture the location till here, this part dynamically, what we can do is we can use one method. In the last classes, we discussed what is that method? Anyone remember? Yes, system.getProperty of user.dir. So if you want to get this location dynamically, what you can do, remove this part and write system.getProperty of parameter is small case letter user.dir and then concat. So this will return the current project location. Inside this, it will go to test data folder. Inside this data.xls file is present. So now this file is represented with this variable name or file object. So this is my first step. So we have to open the file in the reading mode. Okay, now we open the file. What's the next step? We have to capture the workbook from this particular file. We have to get the workbook. That's the next step. So how to get the workbook? We have to use a special class. What is the class which you have to use for workbook? The XSSF workbook. This is a class. Now XSSF workbook equal to new XSSF workbook. And from which file we have to extract that workbook? This particular file. So in the bracket, we have to specify the file, semicolon. And this XSS workbook class we have to import from org.apache POI XSSF.user model. So this is the actual class which is comes from Apache POI. So new XSS workbook of file. So this statement also will throw some exception. Just add this IO exception. So two steps we have done. We open the Excel file in the reading mode. We open the workbook from the Excel file. So here we pass the Excel file object. So obviously what this will do, this will extract the workbook from this particular file. And once it is extracted workbook from the file, we can put that inside the XSF workbook type. So this particular variable is representing workbook of the Excel file. Now we deal with Excel file and then workbook. What's the next one? Sheets. So inside the workbook, there are multiple sheets, but we have to extract a specific sheet from the workbook. So how to extract the sheet from the workbook? Take this workbook object. There is a method called get sheet. Get sheet is a method. So get sheet at. There are two methods are there, and get sheet index also there. So you can use one of the methods. So when I say get sheet, you have to specify the name of the sheet. So currently my name of the sheet is what? Sheet 1. That is a name you have to provide. Sheet 1. And what this statement will do, this particular method from the workbook will extract the particular sheet that we are going to store in a variable. And what is the type of this variable is what? XSF sheet. This is a special class is available. So we need to refer the variable with XSF sheet. And this we have to import. Okay, first we have to open the file in the reading mode, then extracted workbook from the file. Then from the workbook, we get the sheet and store into the variable. And instead of get sheet, we also have another method. Suppose can use like this. Instead of get sheet, there is another method dot get sheet at. And here we can pass the number and it will start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. You can sheet number also, we can provide index. Okay. This is alternative method. So you can use either get sheet or get sheet at. Both are correct. But when I use get sheet, you have to provide the name of the sheet. When I use get sheet at, you need to provide the index of the sheet. So, but always if you have a 10 sheets and 20 sheets, it is very difficult to find the index. So most of the times we provide the name of the sheet. Okay. So we extracted the file. We extracted workbook from the file. Then we extracted specific sheet from the file. So we have a number of sheets, but we extracted only sheet 1. Now inside the sheet, we have so many rows, and in every row, there are so many cells. So inside the sheet, we have so many rows, and in each row, there are multiple cells. So now we need to extract rows. So sheet contains a multiple rows. So how to extract the number of rows from a sheet? So before we need to read all the rows and all the cells, all the rows data and all the cells data in each row, we have to read. So before doing that, we have to count how many number of rows are present, how many number of cells are present in each row that we need to find out. So for that, it is just like a matrix. It's just like a two-dimensional array. So now we need to find out number of rows and number of cells in a particular row. So to find out number of rows, we need to take the sheet object, sheet dot. There is a method called get last row num. Sheet dot get last row num. This is the method. And this method will return the last row number. So suppose here, this is my data. This is my first row, second row, third, four, five, 6 rows are there. Okay. So total 6 will be returned. So what is that question? Worksheet and sheet are the same. Yeah. The terminology is different. Okay. Worksheet and sheet is same, exactly the same. No difference. No, they are not different. They are same. When I call worksheet or sheet, both are same. There is no difference. So to represent in the sheet, we use XSS of sheet is a class. There are some people will call it as a worksheet. Some people just call it as just a sheet. That's it. Both are same. See, there are synonyms are always there, right? So synonyms is always there. There will not be a single word for anything. So one item we can call them with multiple names. Same thing here also. So the sheet is also called as a worksheet. What is a new thing in that? Same thing, workbook is also called as a workbook. And row is also called as a working row. Cell is also called as a working cell. That's it. All right. So now let's go back to the Excel. So to get the number of rows from Excel sheet, we use a one method called get last row number. So this will return the last row number from the Excel sheet. That is exactly equal to number of rows. Normally the last row number is exactly equal to number of rows, right? So here, what is the last row number? 6 is the last row number. So this is the data which we have in the sixth row. So this particular number will be returned. Get last row number means 6 will be returned. So this is the method, and that I can store in a variable. I can create one integer variable, int, I can say total rows or number of rows. Okay. Now, if you want to extract the number of cells, so where exactly the cells are present? Inside the row. Okay. So if you want to find a number of cells, first we need to capture the row, any row. In that particular row, we can count a number of cells. Okay. From the worksheet or from the sheet, we have to extract one particular row. On that particular row, we have to extract the cell. This is the process. Okay. So from that particular sheet, because in the sheet there are multiple rows, so we need to extract a particular row. In that particular row, we can find the number of cells. We cannot find number of cells directly. First, we need to extract the row from the sheet. Then we can find the number of cells. Now let us capture the row from the sheet. So how we can capture the particular row from the sheet? Take the sheet object dot. There is a method called get row. Get row. And here we need to provide the row number. In which row? Because almost every row is having same number of cells. So I will provide some number. Let's say row of 1. So normally the row index will start from 0. So you can say row 1, first row. So this will get the first row. Sheet dot get row of 1. In this, we want to find number of cells. So get the last cell num. This is the method. So from the particular sheet, we have to extract the particular row. From this particular row, we are finding the last cell number. That is exactly equal to number of cells. So int total number of cells. So I have captured two values. I find out the total number of rows, and also I find out the total number of cells in each row. So by using this information, we have to read data from all the rows and all the cells from Excel file. So now let us start writing a for loop. So we need to write a two for loop. So first of all, let's print this data. You can say system.out.println number of rows, printing total rows, and number of cells. And here I can say total cells. Okay, now just execute till here and we'll see. I'm running the code till here. Run as Java application. Yeah, now we can see. So number of rows are 5, number of cells are 4. Number of rows are 5, number of cells are 4. Okay, so when you executing this, you are getting some kind of an error. Uh, status logger log4j2 could not find for logging implementation. Please add log4j core to the class path. So you may see this kind of a error. This will not block your execution. Still, you can work on the Excel file. But if we don't want to see this, we need to just add one additional library, which is related to log4j2. So log4j core. So how we can do it? You can just search for this log4j core and go to Maven repository. But this is not blocker. Okay. So if you just don't want to see that error, we need to add log4j library. So just go to Maven repository and search for log4j-core. Now you can see Apache log4j-core because this particular jar is missing from the dependency. That's the reason it's giving some error. So go to this Apache log4j core and get the dependency. So get the latest dependency. These are all still in beta versions. So 2.23.1, you can take the stable version. And I'm adding this dependency because this log4j core is missing from the existing Apache dependency. So just go to pom.xml and additionally add this dependency. So this is for eliminating this particular error. So once you added this dependency, save it and just refresh the project once again. So it will download required jar file. Now if I execute this, you don't see the error. Now I'm running one more time, run as Java application. So you got another error. So no class founder error. Okay, so let's add a latest one. So sometimes if these two dependencies are not compatible, for example, this Apache POI and this one is not compatible also, it won't work. So let me put another version, latest version. Also try to update this forcefully once again. I think still we are getting log for J core. Okay, let's add a log for J2. For J core. Okay, so we'll see this error later. I think it is not recognizing the jar files. So still we are getting this error. Fine. So this is not a blocker. So we can still proceed with the rest of the steps. So number of rows are 5 and a number of cells are 4. If I look at this and go to the Excel file. So this is the Excel file. Currently, how many number of rows we have, including header part? 6 rows we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows we have, including header, right? It is giving only 5. What does it mean? It is counting rows from 0. It is counting rows from 0. So we can say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So rows are counting from 0 according to the Excel. And 4, what is this 4? Number of cells are 4. 4 means it is counting from 1. Cells are counting from 1. So this is first cell, second, third, and 4. 4 cells are there. So rows are counting from 0. Cells are counting from 1. Okay, remember this point because this is most important. So once you get number of rows and cells, now we'll start reading the data. So how we can read it? We need to write it two different for loops. One for loop is it for what? Incrementing the number of rows. Another for loop is what? Incrementing the number of cells in each row. It is just like a two-dimensional array. So whenever you see number of rows and columns, we have to write a two different looping statements. So I'm writing one another for loop. Inside this another for loop. So two for loops I'm writing, nested for loop. Now outer for loop is representing rows and inner for loop is representing the cells or columns. Now here I'm starting rows number are starting from what? 0, right? So here I'm taking a variable int r equal to 0 because row numbers are starting from 0 and r less than or equal to how many rows we have, total number of rows are there. So equal to total number of rows and r plus. So number of rows are returning 5. So all 5 rows we will get. So 5 is nothing but it is also counted from 0. So r less than or equal to total rows and r plus plus. This is the incrementation of row. Now come to the cell part. So from where we have to start reading the cell. So cell numbers are starting from 1. Actually 1, 2, 3, 4. It is returning 4. But according to the Java, at the time of reading the cell also, it is counting from 0. So as per the Excel, the row count is start from 0 and column count will start from 1. But according to the Java, row count will start from 0 only. At the same time, cell count is also starting from 0 only, according to the Java. So that is the reason here the column cell also we need to start from 0. I can say int c equal to 0, but here we have to say c less than total cells. C less than total cells. We should not say equal to. C less than total cells and C plus plus. Because we are starting from 0, it should be less than here. Okay, but here we should be less than or equal to. Why here it is less than or equal to? Because total number of cells it is returning by counting from 0 itself. When you count from 0 itself, number of rows are 5. That's the reason when you say 0, still it should be less than or equal to total number of rows. But here it is not like that. Actually, the total cells are there 1, 2, 3, 4. It is counted from 1. But as per Java, it will start from 0. So we start, because we are starting from 0, we say less than. That is the logic. Now this is representing, outer for loop is representing the rows, inner for loop is representing the columns or cells. Now we need to read the data from the particular cell. And this is the crucial part. So whenever you want to read data from the particular cell, any cell, suppose I want to read data from this cell, we need to go to this particular row. First, we need to extract the row, entire row. Then we have to get all the cells. Once it is done, now go to another row, then read all the cells. Once it is done, then go to another row, then read all the cells. That means for every row, we have to repeat number of cells. And once it is done, next go to the next row and then repeat all the cells. So before getting the cell and cell data, we have to extract the particular row. Okay, in the previous step also we have seen. So to count number of cells, first we have extracted the particular row and then we find out the number of cells. Similarly, when you want to read the data from the cell, first we need to extract the particular row and then we can read all the cells. So inner for loop is representing for what? Cells. So before reading the data from the cell, that means before using inner for loop, first we need to get the particular row. Once we get the row, then we will start repeating this inner for loop on that particular row. So how to extract the row from the sheet? Same method. Sheet dot get row. And which row we want to get? R. R is representing row number. So get row, sheet dot get row. So what this will return? This will return a row object that we have to store in a variable. So I can create as a current row, some variable I'm creating. And what is the type of this variable? This get row method will return the row, entire row. And the type of this row is what? XSSF row, third object, this one. So row is represented what? Excess of row only. So this variable type is this one. And excess of row we have to import. So what we have done here is before reading the cells using inner for loop, we have to get the entire row. And once we get entire row from this particular row, we can read all the cells by using inner for loop. Okay. Now, by taking this current row here, we want to read all the cells. So how to read the cells? Current row dot, there is a method called get cell, and which cell we want to get, we pass the number. So C cell, in that particular cell, there is some data is present. That data we have to get. So from this particular cell, I can get the data by calling another method called toString. This is the method I can use. So from the current row, it will get particular cell. From that particular cell, toString method will return the data from the cell. Okay. This is a combined statement. Suppose first I want to extract the cell, then I want to get the data. Then what you should do is, as soon as you get a cell from the current row, store that cell in a variable. And now the type of this variable is XSSEF cell. This also we can import. So now all the classes are covered. Workbook is represented with XSF workbook. Sheet is represented with the sheet, XSF sheet. Row is represented with XSF row. Cell is represented with XSF cell. If I look at the code here, we can notice this is a file, workbook, sheet, and here we capture the current row, and here we capture the current cell. So from the current row, we extracted particular cell and storing into the cell object. Now from the cell object, we can extract the data. Cell dot get cell, get string, toString. This is the common method we use to capture the data from the cell. There are other methods also there. I will introduce them later. ToString is a method. So this will actually get the data from the cell. Now we can print the data. So by using system.out.println, system.out.println, you can print cell.toString like this. Okay, so now what will happen? Let me repeat once again. So we have find out the number of rows and cells from the Excel sheet. And now first we have to repeat the rows from 0 to 5, and then we have to repeat the columns from 1 to 4. So before getting the cells, we have to extract the particular row. How we can extract the row from the sheet? Sheet dot get row of R. R is what? Representing row number. In every iteration, in every round of execution, we are passing the different row number. Accordingly, it will return the particular row. That will become the current row. And from the current row, so this inner for loop is representing reading the cells in the particular row. So in which row we want to read the cell? Current row. So current row dot get cell of C. C is representing the cell number that we are passing. It will return the cell object. Once you return the cell object, from that particular cell, we are extracting the data by calling toString method that we are printing. So first it will get the first row and it will read all the cells. Once it is done, again it will go up, outer for loop, again get another row and read all the cells. Third iteration, get another row and again read all the cells. So like this, it will repeat. Outer for loop is repeat 5 times because we have a 5 rows. Inner for loop will repeat 4 times in every row because we have a 4 cells. So once this loop is executed, we will get all the rows and cells from the Excel sheet. So let me execute it. And once we have read everything, two things we have to do. What is that? First, we need to close the workbook because we open the workbook from the file, right? Once our job is completed, workbook dot close. We have to call this method because whenever you open the workbook and worksheet, it will occupy certain amount of memory. So we need to clear that memory. So workbook dot close. So once you close the workbook, then we have to close the file also because here we open the file in the reading mode. And after completion of our job, close the file also. File dot close. So these are the two things we have to do. Now let us execute and see whether it is reading data or not. I can say run as Java application. Yes. So now we can see we got all the data from Excel sheet. And if I look at this data as Excel sheet, this is my data, current data which we have. And book name, purchase date, amount, location, these are the headers actually. And it is combined everything. Just I want to place this in row and columns format. Just a small design I can do. So what I have to do is instead of println, you can simply say only print. And after printing the value, you can just give one tab space. So here I'm giving /t so that it will give one tab space after printing the value. And after completion of inner for loop, I will jump to the next line. For that, I'm using only println. So this will print the values in single line. After printing all the cells in single line, then it will go to the next line. So now this time you will get the data exactly in the tabular format. Let me execute. Yes, now you can see this is the data. So we got all the book names, purchase dates, amounts, and a location. So some basic overlapping is there, but that is fine. Okay, so these are the purchase dates we got, amounts you got, and a location also we got. So this is how we can simply read the data. And here you have to notice one thing. Do you see any difference between both data and data which is there in Excel, data we have read in the console window? Do you see any difference? Do you see any difference, guys? The data. Book names are exactly printed, no change. Purchase date also exactly printed, no change. Location is also exactly printed. Only amount is little bit changed. So actually the amount don't have any decimals here, but here additionally decimals are added. Why? Because toString method we have used actually. So toString method, this is the common method which will read all the data in a string format. So basically Excel also having some data types. Excel is also having their own data types. For example, if you right click on any particular cell, go to format cells, and here you can see the different data types: general, number, currency, okay, date, time, percentage. There are different kinds of data types are available in Excel file. So at the time of reading this data, we will use one common method, which is called toString. So what the toString method will do is, toString method will convert any type of data into string format. The data can be any, it can be date, or it can be number, integer, or it can be string, whatever it is. The whole data will be part of in the form of string only. So that is the specialty of the toString method. It's a one common method which we can use. This will read entire all kinds of data into string format. So in that particular process, the amount, whatever we specified in Excel sheet, that is also read in the form of string. At the time of reading in the form of string, by default, it will add .0. Decimal point it will add, but there is no difference. Even if you add decimal point .0, no difference. It is again representing 200. 200 and 200.0, there is no difference. Okay, the toString method will add decimals to the existing number. Okay, remember that point. So other than this, rest of them exactly the same. So this is the process of reading the data from the Excel sheet. We're able to read all the rows, whatever rows are exist, and we are able to read all the columns, whichever they are exist. So is this clear to everyone so far? Please confirm in the chat box. Rows are starting from 0. That's the reason it is returning 5. As per Excel, row count will be starting from 0 and cell count is starting from 1. As per Java, row count and cell count both will start from 0 only. That's the reason we started from 0 here. Okay. So this is the step-by-step process. Let me repeat once again what we have done. First, we open the file in the reading mode. Then we extracted workbook from the file. Then we extracted specific sheet from the file by using getSheet method. And we find out total number of rows by using getLastRow number. We find out total number of cell by using getLastCellNumber. We have printed. And then we have written a looping statement. In that, outer for loop is repeating number of rows, inner for loop is repeating number of cells in each row. But before reading the cells from each row, we have to extract the particular row. Then only we will able to read the cells. So once we are able to read the cells, we are printing the data, and that's it. So after completion of reading data, we are closing the workbook, we are closing the file. Okay. So here the classic for loop must be there because we are dealing with the index. Okay. If you are dealing with the indexes, you must use a classic for loop. Enhanced for loop is only for collection types. Remember that point. Only when I work with the list collection or set collection, hash map, hash set, in those cases only we have to use a enhanced for loop. In all other cases, we use a normal for loop. Okay. This is all about one example, how to read data from Excel sheet. So if the row start from 0, then line number 28, where is line number 28? Yeah. If the rows are start from 0, then in line 28, why is right get row? You can put 0 also, no problem. You can put 0 also. Nothing wrong in this. I just put some row number. You can put 0 also. Nothing wrong. Okay. So still you got a number of rows are 5, number of rows are 4. Any row, because all the rows are having same number of cells. In that case, you can put any row number here. No problem. Understood, everyone? So now I'll show you how to write data into the Excel file. So we'll take one empty Excel file. Then I will write the data, new data in the Excel file. So we'll see how we can do that. Exactly opposite. So whatever methods we used here, exactly opposite methods we will use. Okay. Let me show you how we can do this. Let's close it and create a new class, writing data into Excel. And take the main method. You can also create another empty Excel file in the same test data folder, or else you can maintain in separate place. So in this, I will create one a new file. So do we have any file here? Okay. So what I can do is here, you can create your own Excel before, or else through our automation, you can create our automation script. First, it will check the Excel is exist or not. Excel file exists. If Excel file is exist, it will just write the data into the Excel. If the Excel file itself is not exist, then it will create a new Excel file. Then it will create a data. So for now, I don't have any file inside the test data. I will create my own Excel file and then I will update the data in the test data. Okay. So now what I will do is writing data into the Excel. Currently, I don't have any Excel file inside the test data. Other than this data.xls, I will create a new Excel file. And then we will write a data. So we'll see how we can do step by step. Same exactly opposite of the previous one. In the previous one, we have read the data, but this time we have to write our own data. Now, again, same hierarchy we have to follow. File, workbook, sheet, row, and cells. Okay. Now, first step is what? We need to open the Excel file. If the file is already exist, we can open it. If the file is not exist, it will automatically create a new Excel file. But in which mode we have to open the file? In the reading mode or writing mode? In which mode we have to open the file? Reading mode or writing mode? Writing mode. So to open the file in the writing mode, what is the method we have to use? File output stream. Okay, file output stream. So let's use it. I'll close this file. So first step, file output stream, file equal to new file output stream of. So you need to specify the location of the file. If already file is exist, empty file, that location you can provide here. If the file is not exist, still no problem. It will automatically create a new file. So where you want to create a new file, inside my test data, I will create my new file. So how to extract the location of the test data file, test data folder, and this is the location. Okay. So how to extract this default location from the from the project by using system dot get property of, here I can say user dot dir. Okay, and concatenate single quotations, and I can remove the rest of the thing. I can just provide only folder name. So test data slash, and you can provide some name of the file. I can say my file dot xlsx. Okay, now this is the file I want to create because currently I don't have such file here. So I'm going to create a new file. If file is already exist, no problem. It will override. If the file is not exist, it will create a new file. So my file.xls, I'm going to create inside the test data folder. Again, this is a part of your current project directory. Now import this file output stream from java.io package. And this will throw some exception, just add this. Yeah. So now we created a new file. Now here we have to create everything, we have to create newly. We created a file, we have to create a workbook, we have to create a worksheet, we have to create a row, we have to create a cell, then we can update the data. Everything is newly creation. Okay. So in this particular file, we have to create a new workbook. New workbook we have to create. How to create a new workbook in the file? Simply you can take XSSF workbook class, XSSF workbook equal to new XSSF workbook. So the workbook is a class which is representing the workbook, right? So just create an object for the workbook and don't pass this file inside the workbook for now. We will do this at the end of the code because we just created only file. Still, we are not using the file. First, we have to create a workbook. We have to create a row. We have to create a cell. We have to update the data. And finally, we have to attach this workbook to the file. That is a final step. So currently, there is no connection between these two. But earlier, how I have done, because already existed file, we are reading the data from the file. So we have extracted the workbook from the file. So we have passed file as a parameter in the previous case. But now we are everything creating newly. So we should not pass anything here. Just it will create a new workbook. Finally, after writing the data into the workbook, we will attach to that to the file. We'll do the step at the final level. Now we'll create a workbook. Inside the workbook, we have to create new sheet. Sheet we have to create. So workbook dot create sheet. This is the method. Previously, which method we used to get the sheet from the workbook? Get sheet method we used. And this time, create sheet. So we can provide some name of the sheet. I can provide some name called sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3 is a common names. But here I'm giving a different name called data. Data is my sheet name. And this I'm going to store in a variable called sheet. And the type of this variable is what? XSSF sheet. And this XSSF sheet is also we need to import. Okay. So we created a file, we created a workbook, we created a sheet. And inside the sheet, we have to create multiple rows. And every row, we have to create multiple cells. In every cell, we have to write some data. So let's create a first row in the sheet. How to create a row in the sheet? Sheet dot create row. Create row. Which row? 0. Because row count will start from 0 only, right? Create row. So once you created this row, that row I will store in one variable called row1. And here I'll name it as XSSF row object. So in this step, what I have done in the sheet, I have created first row. And I given the name as a row1. The type of this variable is row, XSSF row. Now in this row, I want to create multiple cells. Currently, we are in the first row. In the first row, I will create multiple cells. Now let's take this row 1. And in the row 1, how to create a new cell? Dot create cell. And which cell? 0. 0 cell dot inside the cell, we have to update some value. How we can update the value? Using another method called set cell value. Set cell value. You can see set cell value is having different flavors. We can update Boolean value, date, double, okay, all kinds of string, all kinds of data you can update in the cell. So set cell value, here I'm passing some data. Let's say I'm passing string data called welcome. This is only one cell in row one. Now I want to write another cell in the same row. Again, take row one, create cell of one and set cell of, and here I'm writing some number. Welcome, I can say 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, in the same row one, I'll write another cell. So in the same row one, another cell 2. And here set cell value, here I will write something else. I can say, I can put another string, let's say automation, like this. And in the first one, I can say Java. Okay, so now in the sheet, I have created first row and I updated 3 cells. Now same thing will repeat for multiple rows. So create another row. Create another row. So same thing will repeat. As per Java, we have to start from 0. That's the reason I'm starting from 0. Create cell is 0. Previously also at the time of reading the data from cell also, we started from 0 only. But according to the Excel, counting will be different. Excel will count from 1, 2, 3, 4, but according to the Java, start from 0. So that's the reason either while reading the row or while reading the cell, we always start from 0. Remember this. Okay, now I'm creating another row. So I can say create row of 1. And here this is a row 2. Now in the row 2, I will create a new cells. Everything you have to choose. Now in the row 2, I create a 0 cell and I'll update a new value. Let's say Python. And in the row 2, another cell and here update another value. Python. Let's say this is 19th version. It's a version number 19th. And let's say Python 3. It's a 3 version automation. So in the 0 row, I say Python. Another cell, I say 3 and automation. This is a second row. Similarly, I can put another row in the same Excel sheet. Third row. Third row. So row number 3. Row number 3. And here, create row of 0, create row of 1, create number of 2, create row of 2. And again, this we need to change. Row 3. In the row 3, we are getting cell number 0, 1, 2 and updating the value. Here I'm writing another value. C# 5 and automation like this. So how many number of rows we created? 3 rows. How many cells we have created in each row? 3 cells. So once it is done, so we create a new file, workbook we created, sheet we created the 3 rows. And as soon as we created the 3 rows, in every row, we assign some data. So once it is done, what is the final step is we need to attach this workbook to the file. So far, there is no connection between these two. We created a new workbook. Inside this, we created a sheet. Inside this, we created a rows and cells. And finally, once your job is done, we will attach this workbook to the file. So how we can attach this? Very simple. Workbook dot write. Workbook dot write. And this particular workbook, we are going to write into the file. This is the command. Okay, so this workbook, we can write into the file. So this file output stream, you can also write here, no problem. Okay, you can also put file output stream here because first we need to create a workbook, then create a sheet, create rows and cells, and finally, we will write this workbook into the file. That's the reason you can also put this file output stream here, or you can put in the beginning. Because even though if you create this in the beginning, we are not using this file till end of the script. So here we need to do it. So once it is written, then we need to close workbook. So I can say workbook.close. I'll show another examples. Just hold on this. We have written simple static data. If you want to write a dynamic data into the Excel, then we have to go with the looping statement. I'll show you another example. Just hold on. Workbook.close. Then we need to close a file also. File.close. Okay. And finally, we will return some confirmation message. I can say simple file is created. That's it. So this is the final script, which will create a new file, new workbook, new sheet, new rows, new cells, and new data. Everything we created newly. Nothing is present. So now currently I don't have any file inside my test data, but I'm creating this one, myfile.xls, which contains all this data. Now let us execute and see. Run as Java application. Yeah. Now you can see file is got created. Now just refresh the folder. If you don't refresh, you cannot see the file. Just refresh. Now you can see myfile.xls. Now, if you cannot open this file directly, copy this file and put somewhere here. Okay, now I'm opening the same file, myfile.xls. Now you can see this is the data which we have added. 3 rows, 3 columns. Okay, clear everyone? So the file name, what is the sheet name we have given? Data. So you can see sheet name is also updated as a data. Okay, so this is how we can write data into the Excel. So very simple to remember the methods, very easy. So suppose if you want to open the file in the reading mode, file input stream you have to use. If you want to open the file in the writing mode, file output stream, which is clear. And if you want to get existing sheet, we have to use get sheet method. If you want to create a sheet, we have to use create sheet method. Similarly, if you want to extract the row, we have to use get row method. Earlier we have used. But if you want to create a new sheet, to create a new row, we have to use create row. Okay. Like this. So similarly, create cell, get cell. If cell is already exist, we can use get cell. And if you want to create a new cell, we have to say create cell. So this is how we can read the data. So now I'll show you another example. Suppose here I have added static data. Now this data I want to pass it runtime. Once I executed my program, then I will pass the data dynamically. And same data I will add to the Excel file. Okay. So we'll see how we can add dynamic data at runtime using for loop. Now let me close this. Everybody's understood this example because based on this example, the next one is dependent. Everybody is clear? What are all methods we have to use? You need some practice. Okay. So initially you can't remember all these methods, but once you start practicing 2 to 3 times, you will able to remember this. Reading and writing. Only methods are different. And also it is very easy to remember all the methods. All right. So here I have written some static rows, 3 rows and 3 cells in every row. Now I want to create dynamically n number of rows, n number of cells, and even data is also some different. So how we can do that? Let me create another example. So same class I'm taking one more time and writing data into the Excel, writing dynamic data into the Excel. Okay. Now, same process, but I'm just removing this part. Dynamic data we want to do. Yes, everything is same. So only thing is now this time we have to accept the data from the user dynamically. Even number of rows, number of cells also automatically create. Okay, now we have to create a new file. So my file is already exist. Now I can say my file 1. Okay, I'm taking another, or else I can say my file underscore dynamic. New file name I'm giving. My file underscore dynamic. Now we need to create a new workbook, new sheet. The sheet name is data, or I can say dynamic data. I'm changing the sheet name, dynamic data. So this is my sheet. Now randomly we have to provide number of rows, number of cells, and number of data and everything. So dynamically we have to capture the data. And what I'm saying here is dynamical in sense the user has to provide the data. So we have to accept the data from the user at the runtime. So how can we accept the data from the in the runtime? How we can take the input from the user? Using scanner class. Okay. So now here, after creating the file, workbook, and sheet, I'm trying to use one scanner class here. Scanner SC equal to new scanner of what is a parameter we have to use here? System dot in now, because we want to take the data from the user. So this scanner class we will import from java.io. So take this. This SCE will be used to get the data from the user later. Now I'm writing one for loop. This is for number of rows and this is for number of cells. Outer for loop is for creating the rows. Inner for loop is for creating the cells in the particular row. Now in this, I will start from int r equal to 0. Row number r representing the row number. We are going to create everything newly. And how many rows you want to create? That you want to decide here. How many rows you want to create? So even that value also, if you want to accept from the user, you can accept. The user will enter number of rows and columns. Okay, for example, here, I'm asking user system.out.println, enter how many rows do you want to have? How many rows do you want to have? Or you can say enter how many rows. Very simple message. How many rows? And that also we can accept. How to accept? SE dot. What is the method? What is the method to accept integers? SE dot next int. Right? This will get. And that I'm storing in a variable. Int number of rows. Number of rows. Similarly, I will also accept number of cells from the user dynamic tools. Enter how many cells. Enter how many cells in every row. That also I'm capturing, storing into the number of cells. Okay. So rows I'm expecting from the user. Number of cells also I'm expecting from the user. Now, how many times the outer for loop should repeat? Depends on the number of rows. So r equal to 0, r less than or equal to number of rows, r plus plus. And inner for loop is representing the cells. Even cells also we have to start from C equal to 0, but C less than we have to use. Less than number of cells, how many cells we want to create, and then C plus plus. Okay. Now we have to create a new rows and new cells. Then we will update the data. Everything we have to create newly. So before inner for loop is representing the cells, outer for loop is representing the rows. So before starting inner for loop, I will create a row first. First, we need to create a row. Inside the row, we can create multiple cells. So how to create a row here? Let's take a sheet object, whatever we created here. Sheet dot create row. Which row we want to create? R. R is representing row number. So this will create a new row that I'm going to store in a variable called current row. And what is the type of this variable? XSS, F row object. Now this will create a new row based upon the number we provided. And in this particular row, we have to start creating the cells. Now come to inner for loop. In this particular row, how to create a new cell? Dot create cell. Which cell? C. C is representing the cell number. After creating the cell, okay, this will just create a cell. And inside the cell, we have to update the value, right? So this cell I'm going to store in a variable called cell. And what is the type of this variable? XSS F cell. Now we created cell. And inside the cell, we have to add some data. Even that data also we need to accept from the user, right? User has to provide that value. So we need to provide some value. So how we can provide the value? So in this particular cell, dot set cell value, set cell value. Here, normally we will hard code the value, right? Like this. But this time we want to get this value from the user. From the user, we want to get this value. So user can provide any value. It can be string, number, boolean, whatever. So now what I will do is, instead of hard coding this value, I can simply say se dot next. Se dot next. So whatever the value we provided at the runtime, that will be captured by this command. And that will be entered into the newly created cell. Okay. So this is how we need to do. So first we have created a new row here. And inside the row, we created a new cell. Inside the cell, we added data. And this data we have to provide at the runtime. And like this, inner for loop will repeat multiple times because depends upon the number of cells we provided. So it will create so many cells. Once it is done, again, it will go up. Depends upon the number of rows. It will create multiple rows. In every row, it will update the number of cells. Okay. After completion of this, we will close the file. We will close the workbook. And first we need to attach the file to the workbook. Then here, this is the command. Attach workbook to the file. And then we need to close workbook and file, and then confirmation message I have written. So this is how. And here I have used next int. Here I have used next. Why is it so? Because the number of rows and number of cells should be integer value. That we already know. So I have taken next int. But here we don't know what value the user can enter. User can enter any value, number, string, boolean, anything. So common method is next. So next method can accept everything as a string form. Okay. Can user jump the row or cell number? Example, if the user want to store data directly into the row number 3, skip. Yes. Yes, but you cannot use looping statement in that case. In that case, you cannot use looping statement. In the previous example, are you talking about reading or writing? Storing data. Storing data means is writing. In that case, you can create like this by passing any index number. Suppose if I don't create like this. So if I say 1, first row will be created. If I do 2, second row will be created. Inside this, again, in which cell you want to write the data, the cell number you can specify. So randomly also you can put. I'll show you that another example. No problem. So randomly in whichever cell and whichever row you want to update the data, you can still do that. Okay. So here, go back. So here, this particular for loop will dynamically get the data, dynamically get the number of rows, dynamically get the cells from the user. And accordingly, it will create number of cells and rows. And even data also we're expecting from the user. Okay. Now we will see that. And what is the file name I have given? My file underscore dynamic. Let me execute and see. Run as Java application. Yeah. So now it is asking for how many rows? How many rows you want? 3 rows I want. How many cells I want? Let's say 5 cells I want. 3 into 5, 15 values we want to enter. Totally 15 values we want to enter. Now it is asking for data. So I'm giving some data. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Integer data. Now I'm giving some string data. A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Again, A, B, C, M, N, O, 3, 4, PQR, some string type of data. Now this time I will give some decimal numbers, 10.50, 10.12, 56. Some random data I'm providing. Some decimal number data. Okay. And yeah, you can also give combination. Let's say 12 ABC, 13 XYZ. Some combination also you can give like this. Or else ABC 1, 2, 3, XYZ 1, 2, 3. So total 15 values we have to give like this. Again, I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, done. 15 values are done. All 15 values we provided. So file is got created. Now we'll see the data is properly updated or not. Randomly I have given. So go to test data, refresh. Now we can see my file underscore dynamic.xls is got created. Just copy that file somewhere in the drive. So I copied this Actually, you can directly open from Eclipse, but currently it is not opening. So I'm just copying somewhere here. Now this is a file I just created. So let me open it. Yeah, now you can see this is the file. See, this is the data which we have created. So how many rows are created? 4 rows are created. How many cells are created? 5 cells are created in every row. Okay. So this is how we can also dynamically enter the data in the Excel sheet using for loop. This is an example. Suppose if you want to update data randomly, whichever row, whichever cell you want, randomly you want to update. So that also we can simply do that. So let me show you another example. Writing data in specific row and cell. Specific row and cell. Specific row and cell. So in that case, you can just remove this part. Okay, first we need to create a new file, new workbook, and I can call it as a my file random. Okay, different name I gave it, my file random. So now we open the file, open the workbook, open the sheet. Now in the sheet randomly, we can create a new row, new cell and update that randomly. How to do? How we can do? First, let's create a random row. Sheet dot create row. Which row, in which row you want to enter? Suppose in the third row, I want to enter. Create a row that I'm storing in a variable row. So row number 3 I'm giving, or you can just row XSS row. So third row. In the third row, in which cell you want to update the data, that you can specify. Row dot create cell. In the particular row, create cell. In which cell you want to create? Let's say in the third row, third cell, for example, or fourth cell. Let me give 4. Create cell. Right? This will return the cell object. So XSS cell. Okay, this is a row and this is a cell which we created. Third row and fourth cell. Now in this, I want to update data. So cell dot set cell value. Set cell value, and whatever value you want to put, you can put. I can say some value here. That's it. So we created random row, random cell, and update the data. So now execute this. Run as Java application. File is got created. Now refresh your folder. Yeah, now my file random.xl is got created. Now just open the file. I copy here and open this. Perfect. Here it is got created. See, according to the row and the cell number. So which row it is? Third row, fourth cell. And if I look at the Excel file, this is a 0 row, first row, second row, third row. So third row, which cell? Fourth cell, A, B, C, D. So count is starting from 0. So here it is got updated. So this is how we can also randomly create a row, create a cell, and then update the value. So these are all few examples. But actually in the real scenario, you don't write all these scripts. So we will create a utility file. We will create a utility file which contains a reusable methods for creating Excel, writing the data, reading the data, applying the formats, colors, and everything. We have some utility file, user-defined methods. So in data-driven testing, we will try to use that utility file because you have multiple data-driven test cases. In every test case, if you want to write this piece of code, suppose if this piece of code, if you want to write in every test case, it will be very complicated. So that is the reason we will create a separate utility file which contains the user-defined methods, and we will read those methods and do the data-driven testing. That is the actual real scenario. In the tomorrow session, I will show you how we can create that utility file. By using that utility file, how we can create data-driven test cases. So that concept we will see tomorrow session. But before that, you need to be more familiar with these concepts. How to read data, how to write data, how to work with the cells and rows from an Excel sheet. Okay. Clear, everyone? So tomorrow's session, we will continue this. And how to create utility files, I will show you that. Yes, in the DDT, data-driven test case, we will have tested data in Excel files. Test cases, anyway, you will write before itself, but test data is always maintained in the Excel files. And the test data, we will read it and use it in your application for our automation testing. So most of the times, we don't write anything into the Excel because data-driven testing is a one-side concept. So data we will prepare manually, right? We don't create data through automation. We will create data manually. So always use the data for data-driven testing. So most of the time we'll focus only on the reading part. We don't do even writing part. Okay, but very rare cases. Suppose I already read some data from Excel and use it in our application. I have done some testing and the results, if you want to write back into the same Excel, then I can write a results back into the same Excel. So in that case, writing is come into picture. But that is also very rare case. We don't write any results into the Excel file. The results we will populate in the reports, UI reports. If any test cases got passed or failed, we will populate the results in the report, not in the Excel sheet. That is very rare case. But still, if you want to write results back into the same Excel sheet, we can still do that. But most of the times, we will do only reading part, not on the writing part. Okay. So we don't create anything newly. We just use existing data, which we created manually in the Excel sheet. We will read the data, use it for automation. That is a real use case. So what table you're talking about, Shadi? Scenario where the user need to create a table. What is the table you're talking about? Can you please elaborate? What table you are talking about? So report generation and all, still we have not discussed. So in TestNG, we will discuss about real report generation. We can generate TestNG reports. We can generate external reports. So that's a different part. Everybody's understood this concept. It's a very, very most important concept. You will get a lot of questions also. And you need to remember few methods. And then definitely ask to write a code. How to read data from Excel. Can you write few statements? Then you should able to write. Even though if you do some small mistake, that's still fine. But the process, the procedure, you have to know. So myfile.excel, I have just shown you how to write data into the Excel. That's it. It's not a table or something, nothing. Okay, if you want to write the data in Excel, how we can do that? So that I have shown you just an example. Okay, but most of the times we don't write anything into Excel. We always prepare the test data manually. And that data, we will read it and use it in our automation testing. That is a use case. Okay, so just practice this for today's session, reading and writing, get familiar with this. And once you're familiar, tomorrow's session, we will continue with the data-driven testing. So writing data into Excel. Multiple examples I have shown you. Writing data into Excel. So this much is enough. Apache POI is very huge API. We can do a lot of things. But for automation perspective, this is more than enough. How to read data, how to write data into the Excel. And even this is also not much important how to write. Just if you know how to read, that is enough. But tomorrow's session, I will show you how to create a utility file which contains all user-defined methods. And even if you have a 10 to 20 data-driven test cases, we will try to use the utility files so that we can minimize our effort and time and everything while performing data-driven testing. So that use case we will see tomorrow's session. Okay. Yeah. So I'll stop here for today's session. Tomorrow we will continue.